You guys will die when you see this new vivarium. I'm a bit of a mad scientist of sorts, with 2 giant vivariums in my home. Pandora, my giant rainforest vivarium, and Orcadia, my rainforest treetop vivarium. Both these chunks of rainforest are connected and contain an abundant amount of life. But soon, this compound rainforest ecosystem will be joined by what has become my greatest vivarium of all time, my 3rd child that I'm thrilled to finally debut. Today, I reveal the completed Giant Vivarium 3, our new tropical wetlands ecosystem, set to completely blow you out of the water. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC fam. Enjoy. The creatures of the rainforest watched as my team and I went straight to work with the addition of plants into our newly hardscape tropical wetlands vivarium, which, by the way, finally has an official name. But I'll reveal the name later in the video. But I'll be honest, having a cool name didn't necessarily mean it would look cool when done. Tank building is just one of those things where you can only hope that the end result will be great. But sometimes the design can totally flop. And this tank had taken months of planning, hard work, and all my resources to make happen. Little did I know, a big surprise was up ahead once we finished this planting stage in preparation for the adding in of the new animals. But on the flip side, attention all of you plant lovers. Now, I realize you guys might sometimes feel a little ignored on this channel due to the large animal focus. But plants are essential to the ecosystems of the world, and I've got a ton for us to geek out on together. With a lot of work ahead, we decided to start at the top and make our way down into the water area, beginning with Bromeliads. Bromeliads are awesome plants and some of my favorite plants for terrariums. They are plants of the pineapple family, and many species grow epiphytically, meaning without the need for soil, and can simply be attached to wood, branches, and rocks with a binding medium like sphagnum moss or cocoa fiber. These Bromeliads are a Neoregelia species, and this is what their roots look like. To attach them to the wood, we simply used sphagnum moss and cocoa fiber, all tied together with fishing line. We also attached this gorgeous species of bromeliad, known as Cryptanthus, along the branches using fishing line and a pinch of cocoa fiber and sphagnum moss. They're such stunning plants. And soon, we had a beautiful, happy community of bromeliads along the wood. Now, while we continue with the planting, let's play a guessing game. I have to show you something super cool. Check this out. This here is the outflow of the filter, where clean water emerges, and attached to its pipe are a pair of yellow tubes, which feed the waterfall. But also some of these clearer tubes. These clearer tubes snake their way all around the vivarium. They even extend way over to the other side of the tank. Now, can you guess what these tubes are for? You'll see what they're for in a bit. But I was super stoked to see it all actually working. Something I haven't yet done in my previous vivaria. There were a ton of other plants waiting on the sidelines to be planted into our wetlands, including a variety of vines, like this gorgeous Cissus discolor vine, ivy, pothos, heart-leafed philodendron, Spanish moss, which is actually also part of the Bromeliad family, and one of my favorites, this awesome Ficus pumila mini vine, which makes a great carpeting vine plant. We also had African violets, my first time to use this in Escape, and the ever-beloved Fittonia, also known as nerve plants. I highly recommend these plants for any terrarium build, as they're easy to grow. Ferns, bags of locally sourced moss, and a ton of the most stunning aquatic plants, including my favorite plant of all, which lies in this container. We began to plant small Korean ferns in pots on both sides. The vines were planted towards the top, clumps of nerve plants were scattered generously throughout the land, African violets for some color, and oh yes, our beloved Ficus pumila mini. Oh, I just couldn't wait for this to sprawl and carpet everywhere. And before we knew it, we had a lush and beautiful garden of plants on land. But there was still something missing, and here's where things start to get really exciting. So about that tubing system. Well, those tubes are designed to carry water to different designated spots throughout the vivarium, places that needed to remain constantly wet because of these lush plants. Moss. Our Tropical Wetlands Vivarium was going to be a mossy wonderland, just full of various species of moss, both on land and in the water. So these clumps of moss were a bunch of different moss species collected locally, but from semi-aquatic and fully aquatic environments, mostly the banks of rivers, where they're constantly wet and never allowed to dry out, hence the wet spots. The tubes are a sort of drip system to deliver this moisture to various areas of the driftwood, which would otherwise be dry. In nature, regular rains, super high humidity and fog, or constant splashing of river water can keep huge carpets of moss thriving on surfaces. And so, we attach tons of this moss everywhere to mimic a true tropical wetlands. We even lined the waterfall with it. Now check this out, guys. We attached a string here, and can you guess what it's for? So to reduce all the drip that's happening at this spot, we decided to create a vine, which at first I thought, why not try using some vines from Pandora? But we later realized that natural string might be a better option, as it was much more flexible and also easier for moss to cling to. Yes, we would cover this string with moss as well, and it could act as a pathway for loose drops of water to trickle down, so it wouldn't cause too much unnecessary splash everywhere. When it was done, I found it looked super cool. Alright, so this verdant carpeting plant here is Hemianthus calitricoides, or as is called in the aquascaping hobby, HC cuba. This awesome plant is normally aquatic, but it can be trained and adapted to live in wet environments on land, just like moss. We laid it out in various areas. They're one of my favorite carpeting plants because they look like a field of clovers from afar. Now it's time to work on the aquatic areas. We first added white sand to the foreground. This will make the entire aquatic floor look cleaner. We began with the biggest plants first. Java fern was stuck into the crevices of driftwood and rocks. This easy-to-grow aquatic plant can grow in or out of soil, glued directly onto rocks and wood, and tolerates low light, so they're perfect for the shadowy areas, and a popular choice for tanks. Similarly, we had several species of anubias of varying sizes, which, like Java fern, grows attached to rocks and decor and tolerates lower light. Now, an aquascaping trick when choosing plants and where to plant them is to use the forced perspective method where smaller leafed plants are planted towards the back and larger leafed plants towards the sides and front. This would help give the illusion that the tank is deeper than it actually is. As we were completing the final plantings, I couldn't help but think about how all of this began due to something I watched 5 years ago. It took just one YouTube video in 2020, at the height of the global pandemic lockdown. We were all stuck at home, and I was searching YouTube for how to get rid of algae from my 75-gallon fish tank. But then I stumbled upon a video by this man, Yuris Yuchayev, talking about aquascaping, and I instantly knew I had to learn more. At that moment, I was officially sucked down the aquascaping rabbit hole. The possibility for aquatic setups blew my mind. The carpeting plants, the purling bubbles as the plants respired, the moss, the grazing shrimp, the fish, the landscaping, the cool path of white gravel. Even though I was traditionally an insect guy, everything about the aquascaping hobby resonated with my entire being, and I became obsessed. For over 8 months, I was entrenched, studying day and night everything aquascape from Yuris and other aquascaping YouTubers like Green Aqua and George Farmer. And also this legend. So you know how the godfather of ant keeping is Uncle Milton of Uncle Milton Ant Farms from the 50s? Well, I was surprised to learn that there's a godfather of aquascaping too. His name is Takashi Amano, a late Japanese photographer and author of Nature Aquarium World, a 3-book series on aquascaping, freshwater aquarium plants, and fish that revolutionized the way we keep fish in planted tanks. If you mention his name to any aquascaper, there's always a sense of reverence and honor that follows, lingering in the air. For a lot of people, he was the founder of this incredible hobby known as aquascape, and a legend at showing the world how beautiful nature aquariums can be. So, studying from the greats, I not only was able to get rid of the algae in my tank, but I was able to transform it into the nature aquarium of my dreams. Now, I eventually moved out of my apartment and consequently had to rehome my tank. But I knew one day I would be needing all of that aquascaping knowledge for a future project. And I was right. Here I was now, working on the greatest tank of my entire life. Now, before I show you the final result of our giant Vivarium 3, on this topic of aquascaping gurus, I have to shout out my buddy, Jay Cortez, a master aquascaper, and the one who helped me source all these incredible plants. He has been monumental at helping me make my vision for Vivarium 3 come to life. Interestingly, despite all his years of aquascaping experience, Jay says he's never worked on a tank quite like this before, which further affirmed to me just how special Giant Vivarium 3 really was. And so, after all the months of planning and hard work, a team of efforts, and lots of passion, our giant Tropical Wetlands Vivarium was finally completed. AC family, it's with great honor that I present to you our brand new Tropical Wetlands Vivarium and the future extension of our cloud rainforest. It was hands down the most beautiful slice of nature within glass I'd ever seen. The sight of it took my breath away. The details were sublime. I just couldn't take my eyes away from the sheer beauty of our wetlands. Let's have a tour around, starting first on land. I call this bridge of driftwood the Arch of Aquarius. It will act as a cool bridge for future land animals to cross between islands, passing some beautiful bromeliads along the way. I love how this island meets the water at a number of points for easy access for animals in and out of the water. Check out the Talangia beside the Cryptanthus. These two bromeliads are now branch buddies. Let's move down below water. First, look at the foot of this island. Man, the details! Plants were just encrusted everywhere, occupying various pockets of aquatic space. First, look at this. My dream Bucephilandra, that is. This is one of those precious aquascaping plants that come in a variety of colors from green to red to even purple. They attach to rocks and wood, and I've missed owning my own set of Buce. I've got 5 species of Buce in this vivarium. I love the look of the Anubias and Java fern attached on the vertical driftwood surface. And here we come to my favorite plant of all. Remember that plant in the container? This is Nymphaea red tiger lotus. It's a gorgeous red lotus plant, which will soon send its reddish striped leaves up to the surface to form cool lily pads of lotus. Ah, love it so much. Other pops of red are on the way. This rapini-looking plant is Samolus parviflorus red, and will soon look nice and reddish. So will this future wall of Rotala, planted there at the back. The grass-looking plants are Ericolum Vietnam. The other side of the vivarium is just as gorgeous. Here's where the outtake of the filter is. We constructed a driftwood cover to conceal its presence. I just love how both islands offer some cool hiding spaces for future creatures to inhabit. And this was the best. At the center was a cool pathway of white sand, and for me a symbol of our ever-winding and adventurous journey into nature discovery. Doesn't it look pretty? I just loved sitting in front of the tank and, pun intended, soaking it all in. With gratitude, knowing we reached the finish line with the initial building of our tropical wetlands. But as I was sitting there, it was then that I made the most wonderful discovery of all. The plants were pearling already? They were already taking in dissolved carbon dioxide from the water and respiring oxygen air. It's been years since I've seen this. And man, have I missed this sight. The bubbles floated up gracefully like reverse snowflakes to the surface. Such a beautiful thing. And a great sign the plants were healthy and beginning to establish in their new home. The more these plants flourish over time, the more pearling we'll be seeing. It was awesome to see that the plants were already performing their important work in our wetlands ecosystem, providing oxygen for its future inhabitants. It was a beautiful reminder of the importance of plants for life on Earth. They use light energy from the sun and convert CO2 into oxygen for animals to breathe. Herbivorous animals eat plants, deriving their energy from them, which makes its way up the food chain. Plants are hands down critical to global ecosystems, and my favorite part of building vivariums. And so, AC family, it's time to announce the name I've chosen for this vivarium. As voted on by you, the AC family, Giant Vivarium 3 will from now on be called the Bermuda Rectangle. I like that name. And now it was time for the Bermuda Rectangle's biggest event of all. The moment I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for. I know I have. It's time to welcome our first generation of tropical wetland creatures. The time has come for GAIA 3. Let's add our creatures in, shall we? Vote in my community tab to affect this story.